Good morning to you all. Happy Friday. I hope you're having a great day and I hope you've had a great week. Today I want to look at how to build a healthy routine. So last week we looked at building a support network around you, whether that's professional advisors, coach, mentor, or a community like this, or actually an accountability group, support group where you meet with your peers on a regular basis. And that's a really important element of overall, I guess, what we're talking about, looking after yourself, which I find is a really important thing, particularly at this time of year. I don't know if you find this, that the year is kind of closing in and it's a much more reflective time of year, certainly for me. And so at this time of year, more than any other, I'm thinking about what do I need to have around me in terms of support, what do I need to do to set myself up for a great new year. So really important thing, always important all the way through the year, but somehow for me at this time of year, these kinds of things become even more important. Good morning, Chandesh. Thank you very much for joining. Great to have you with us. So today, building on that theme of support and self-care, because after all, if we're not okay, how can our businesses be okay? Today it's all around how to build a healthy routine. Now, many people, those words healthy routine, that will mean many things to many different people. So I thought I'd share with you some of the elements that I think are important and certainly are important to me in terms of my quest to find balance and good health in my life. Morning, Nikki. So I thought I'd share with you some of the elements that I think are important in a healthy routine, and I would love to hear from you guys what you think is important. Having a healthy routine along with having a good support network are really important elements of kind of making things work in your life and in your business, so that your business and life can be balanced and ultimately so that we as individuals can be balanced. So let me tell you that the other things that I think about when I'm thinking about my routine. So in no particular order, I would say that diet, I have discovered, is really, really important. So what I'm putting into my body, I'm getting more and more conscious of what my body needs, what fuels it, and trying to get as much variety in my diet as I possibly can, and trying to eat as many unrefined foods as possible. So I think I've done quite a lot of work on this over the last year, and it's different for everybody. So you're finding out what's going to work for you and your body. I think it's worth doing that. I did a really amazing gut test over the summer that was very specific in terms of what it recommended that I eat and don't eat, which was kind of quite eye-opening. There were quite a lot of things on that list that I was eating a lot of that it told me to reduce or even cut out. So that was quite a change in terms of what happened to me, but I feel so much healthier since I've made those changes. So whether or not you want to go as extreme as that or not, but I think diet is one of the most important things. And then closely linked to that, I think, is exercise. Now, different people need different kinds of exercise, and different kinds of exercise are good for their body. So really, I guess what we're talking about is movement. I think some people need vigorous exercise. I've discovered that actually really vigorous exercise works really well for me. So I have discovered that I love running, and I'm trying to get good at it. And that has become a really important part of my life in the last year. Taking regular exercise, I'm finding that I'm understanding more the link between movement and mood. So before, maybe when I wasn't feeling great, I woke up and I wasn't really in a great form, I wouldn't really feel like I was bothered to move, and I wouldn't really necessarily do much about it. But actually what I'm finding now is that if I can get myself out, have a brisk walk or go for a run or get on the treadmill or jump up and down, do a few jumping jacks or something like that, it really can change how you're feeling about things. So having some exercise in your routine. And when I'm talking about routine, there's daily routines, there's weekly routines, there's monthly routines. So what I would say, my experience of this is I'm still learning and still testing, and you'll need to do the same, and I'm sure you already have, in terms of working out exactly what's going to work for you, which is why I want to share for you some of the things that I do but I'm sure that you will have different aspects that work for you. So for me, I have 2 personal training sessions a week, and I also try and go running twice a week. And when I travel, which I do a lot with client work and delivering workshops, etc., I seem to be spending quite a lot of my time in hotels recently, and hotels with a gym, having a gym has become quite a requirement for me now, which it never used to be. So that is a really important thing when I'm looking at a hotel, is do they have a gym? Can I get on the treadmill? Can I move my body in the morning to get me set up for the day? So for me, that's become really important. It doesn't need to be anything necessarily as vigorous as running. Many people find that yoga, Pilates, that kind of movement really helps. But elevating your heart rate on a regular basis has many known benefits, and so I would definitely recommend that you think about how you put that into your daily, weekly routine. Talking about daily routines, then, a lot has been written about daily routines. Morning Rosie, morning Ollie, nice to have you with us, thanks for joining. Rosie saying totally agree on exercise. Yeah, Rosie and I had a conversation about running. 24-hour run Rosie did recently, so congratulations on that. I can't even imagine that. So an hour is enough for me at the moment, but maybe I'm building up to that. Anyway, daily routines. Lots of people speak about daily routines, and a lot has been written about the power of having a daily routine. And again, I would say this is something that you need to evolve, because it will be different for each person. A lot of people try to protect that first hour of the morning. They call it the golden hour. And I know people that spend that hour, little bit of writing, little bit of movement, little bit of reflection, maybe some meditation. There are lots and lots of different things that you can try out to see what's going to work for you, but I have certainly found that when I protect that first hour of the day, it has a huge benefit. Journaling as well, gratitude journaling is something that I've done on and off over the last year, and I actually have just started again. Starting to do that again, and that can have a huge positive impact in terms of how you start your day. One of the things that many of us do, and I'm certainly guilty of this, is the first thing we do when we wake up in the morning is check our phones. So we're checking our email, we're checking social media. And the problem with starting the day like that, well, when you check your email, it opens up loops in your head. It opens up, oh, I need to do this, or I need to think about this. So it starts opening up all these different loops in your head, which you're then carrying through, and you're giving yourself more and more things to remember and more things to think about. Social media, again, a lot has been written about that, and it's a very powerful tool that many of us in our businesses use extensively, but it's important to make sure that we're using that in a positive way, because I find sometimes if you start your day and you're looking at all the wonderful things that everybody else is achieving, and that can start quite a negative kind of cycle. So I try to avoid email, social media for that first hour of the day. Gratitude journaling, meditation, and some yoga is what I try to do in the morning, but many of you will have different routines, I'm sure, but just having a routine is really, really important, and I would definitely encourage you to try and see what is going to work for you. Also, the evening routine. Sleep is something, if you'd asked me a year ago whether or not I thought I was a good sleeper, I probably would have told you yes, but I've done a lot of I've become much more conscious about my sleep, and I've even got myself a gadget that tells me how, or helps me understand the patterns of my sleep and what I need. And I've realised that I actually need quite a lot of sleep, and many people do. The research says that most of us, the vast majority of us, need 7+ hours a night, which I know for many is a luxury, but sleep is something we really want to protect. And so that evening routine is actually just as important. A lot is spoken about and written about morning routine, but evening routine is actually hugely important. Getting yourself ready for sleep. One of the things that I've experimented with is reducing all the blue light that we have in our households. Again, especially important at this time of year. So I've got something on my computer that reduces the blue light, and I even have glasses that I can block out if I want to watch television. So, trying to bring your body to a state, getting ready for sleep, and then that whatever routine you have just before you go to sleep. Again, a lot of us are lying in bed reading on our phones last thing at night, email, social media. The research says that that's not a great way for us to end the day. So trying to have a few steps. Leanne Spencer, who's I believe in this group, she talks about the staircase, the sleep staircase. So that's an important thing, and again will be individual for each person. What's Rosie saying? Make sure the bed is for sleep and not watching TV and phone. And no, I mean absolutely. A lot of people have a television in the bedroom, and I think many of us are on our phones late at night, and it's all the research says that that's a really bad way, not only from a blue light perspective, but because it's stimulating your brain in a way. You want to be saying, calm, we are about to go to sleep, to our brains, not stimulating them with new ideas or to-do lists or things to get anxious about. So the next thing that I have on my list of things that I think are important to consider in a healthy routine is taking time out to reflect and recharge. I think many of us that are running our own businesses are trying to run at 100 miles an hour. I know that I always am, but just making a conscious decision to take time out to reflect and to recharge those batteries, managing your energy levels and celebrate. This is one that I forget to do, and a lot of us do. So last week I won a really, really important contract with an amazing new client. It means I'm going to be running a series of people management and leadership workshops next year on a program that this client runs, and I'm super excited about it. But I kind of won it, and then I immediately went on to, what next, and what do I do? And I think many of us, I'm sure that many of you can relate to that. And actually, I had to sort of stop myself and say, no, let's just take a moment and go, wow, that's really great to have won that. That's really brilliant. And I encourage my clients to do that as well. And anybody actually that I meet to just take a moment and go, do you know what? That's brilliant. So I ask people, have you congratulated yourself? So I'm good at seeing it in other people, but not always good in myself. So taking that time to go, do you know what? Well done. And again, all the research says that is very positive, not just individually, but if you can do that in a team as well. So celebrate successes before we move on to the next project or the next milestone. We're all kind of driving forward, but celebrate. Let's just say, do you know what? Well done. I did good, or we did good. Let's just take a moment to acknowledge that before we move on to the next milestone. Linked to this time to recharge and reflect is make space in our lives for things and people that are important. So I spoke last week about the support network, and I was coming at it from a kind of a professional business perspective, what advisors, what groups, etc. But the people around us, our families, our loved ones, are also a huge source of support, and making time for those people that are important to us, it gladdens our soul, it makes us feel, it connects us to our humanity, and also making time for things that are important, whether that's an activity, a hobby, something that we just really enjoy. Make time in our lives for something that is not business. Now, I'm a fine one to talk about that. I'm not always very good at doing that, but I do really try to carve out time for non-business activities. So my husband and I love to go scuba diving, so that is one of our things where we carve out time, and that's not about work. But that's not so easy to do in cold East London in November. So it's about finding other things that are not about work. Again, I mentioned running has become hugely important to me in terms of washing my brain and enabling me to switch off. So some of these things can overlap. But making space in your life for things and people that are important, I found has been hugely important. I made a deal with myself last year when I was really worried that I was burning myself out. I could see that was what was happening, and I made a deal with myself that said, if you carve out time for exercise, for the things and the people that are important to you in your life, then we can stop having the conversation about how hard you're working. And that deal kind of worked well for me. You'll need to figure out what works for you, but it can't all be about business, however much we love what we do, and I love what I do, and I hope that you love what you do, but it can't all be about that all the time. We need some freshness, we need some perspective. Managing our energy, I speak a lot about energy and the way that we're all wired. We all need to manage our energy, and that comes from different people and different situations depending on who we are, and so having a really good understanding of that is super important, and then managing that. So for example, I love running workshops or getting out and speaking, but I know that it drains quite a lot of my energy, so I try to plan after such a thing. I try to plan a quiet morning at home or a quiet morning at the hotel, for example. I try not to put client calls or any kind of activity where I'm talking to people. I try to have a period of time where I'm not doing that, so that I can recharge my batteries. If I've spent a time running a workshop or speaking where I'm doing a lot of interacting with people, then I do something the next day that's a little bit quieter, so to try and get that balance. Other people will have different ways of adjusting to their own energy needs, but getting really conscious about that, understanding how you're wired and what you need to do to make your life work for you is really important. Environment is linked to that, so when we feel stuck, there's again been a lot of research that suggests changing our environment can really help, which is why going on a retreat or going out for a walk or just even walking into the next room to make a cup of tea can change the way that we're thinking about something. So when we get stuck, it's really good to just to change our environment. I have clients who actually have different environments for different kinds of activities, which I think is a brilliant idea. So what's Rosie telling us? Last day at work, next week I'm self-employed and working from home. Yay! Any advice on building a routine from scratch when I have so much more freedom? Well, that is what we're talking about, really, isn't it? It's I would look at those elements that I've mentioned and prioritise them. I don't think you can put all of those in at one time. I would definitely say, what is my exercise regime? I know that you run, Rosie. I would also, if you're going to be working from home, you're going to really be able to think about what you're eating. You're going to have much more control over your eating. Think about your sleep energy balance. Plan your week is what I would say. Plan your week. What are the things that you want to put in your week? What are the important things, and work up from there. And start with, I find starting with the non-work things. So when am I exercising? I'm putting that in my diary. What's my morning routine? I'm blocking that out. What are the spaces that I want to make for the things and people that are important to me? And then the rest of it is work, and that needs to be planned as well. But that is where I would start. One of the things that is really, really important to me is having a system to get things out of my head. I don't know whether you're the same, but I am the sort of person that will wake up in the middle of the night with my head running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Things occur to me all the time, ideas or things I need to be doing. These things are coming to me all the time, as I'm sure they are to you. And if you leave them in your head, it is exhausting. That is my experience. And so I have developed a system that works for me to get things out of my head. And what I do is simply, I have the notes app on my phone, and when I'm out and about during the day or at night, I have my phone on flight mode by the side of my bed, and so if I wake up in the middle of the night and I need to get something out of my head, I then put it in the notes app. And then what I do as part of my evening routine before I end the day is I like to get everything clear and organised before I go into the next day. So I then look at that list that I've got on my note, and I put it into a more structured way. So I put it into my task management. I happen to use Asana, so I put it then into my formal to-do list. But and I organise it, and I put things in my diary, and I just kind of get myself organised. I like to be organised at the end of the day, and then in the morning I already wake up and I know what I'm doing. Other people I know prefer to do that first thing in the morning. But I would definitely recommend once a day, if you can, just spending 10-15 minutes, right, what am I doing, what's going on, what did I think I was going to achieve today, what are the things that I'm realistically not going to get done, let's replan those. Just that helps me feel organised, but you need a system to get things out of your head. And I would say, whether it's your phone or whether it's a notebook, have somewhere that you can just write things down or get things out of your head, and then a system to put them in a more organised way. Because at 3 o'clock in the morning, you don't want to be thinking too much about, putting stuff in your diary, or you just want to make a note of it and know that then you'll come back to it. So I find I've been using that system for years and years, and I find that really, really effective. I mentioned sleep earlier on. If I've got lots of things in my head, I find it very difficult to sleep, and I think many of us are similar. If there are conversations that you need to have, or lots of to-dos going around in your head, then that can be really quite exhausting. And so I try to get as much of that out of my head as possible. I also have coloured post-it notes that I use. So then in the morning I'm showing you the non-coloured side. I have coloured post-it notes that I use, and so then in the morning I will say, right, if I'm here at home, I'll say, what do I need to do? What do I want to achieve today? And I'll pick those things and I'll put them on here, and then I can get really focused on doing those things. One of the things that makes us exhausted is something called decision fatigue, and so there are lots of people that have cracked this. You'll notice people like Mark Zuckerberg and Barack Obama, who wear pretty much the same clothes every day. And one of the reasons that they do that is it just takes the decision making out of it. Now, you might not want to go that far, but the point is I find very helpful the day before deciding what I'm going to do the next day. So then when you wake up in the morning, you don't have to go around that decision loop again. You've just decided what you're going to do. If you're finding it difficult to get motivated to exercise, that's a brilliant way to do it. I used to pack my bag the night before with all my work things in, so that in the morning, even if I didn't really feel like getting up and going to the gym, that was just what was happening. So there's all kinds of little different tricks and hacks that we can get into. So these are the elements of a healthy routine from my perspective. I'd love to know from your perspective what your hacks are, or what your tricks are. What do you find works for you? I would definitely say test, refine. And the other thing I would say is, the brilliant thing, one of the amazing things about life is that every day is a new day. And so if one day you fall off the wagon and you don't eat very well, or you don't exercise, do you know what? Today's a new day. Tomorrow will be a new day. So each day we can reset. If we've had a difficult day or a bad day, we don't have to give ourselves a hard time. We just say, this is my routine that I am trying to adhere to. These are the standards that I've set myself, that I'm looking to achieve. And let's be kind to ourselves. Let's not give ourselves a hard time. I think there's quite enough of that going on in the world. The purpose of having a healthy routine is to make us feel supported and balanced. And so giving ourselves a hard time if we don't quite achieve something is pretty counterproductive. So Rosie is saying, I've slept very well the last couple of days knowing that change is coming, but I'm the same a 3 a.m. overthinker. Yeah, notebook by the bed for me. Yeah, definitely. Well, it's changed my life for sure. I have it. That is what I do wherever I am. I mean, you'll notice even if you're having a conversation with me, sometimes I get out my phone and I'm typing something. It's not that I'm ignoring you or trying to multitask, it's that I've just said to myself, I need to do that, or something in a conversation with a client has triggered something, or 3 o'clock in the morning, I just write it down, and then I have a process where I get it a little bit more organised. So I hope that has stimulated some thought process for you. I hope that you have a healthy routine, or that this has given you some ideas in terms of how to build one. I'd love to hear what your experiences are with this, and I wish you a very happy rest of Friday and a very happy, productive and balanced weekend. Take good care, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.